So we're going to do a podcast. We're going to talk about philosophy in theory.
I don't think there's philosophy in practice, but it is pretty theoretical. There is. I used to do philosophy group of guys. They call it praxis, but that doesn't make any sense.
Praxis, okay.
Right.
Well, if you don't know this guy, it's Fang.
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 Last name.
Like the teeth of a snake.
Uh,
Because he's so deadly.
Not really.
It's just a Chinese name.
Yep.
So a few weeks ago, I haven't read it yet because I got really sick, but you gave me this book about the writings of Spinoza. And I brought it home, and my wife, who is studying philosophy right now,
Yeah.
she saw the book and she said, all the hoity-toity philosophy professors are talking about this guy right now.
Perfect.
So you told me it was the only book on philosophy that I need to read right now.
It doesn't. Oh my goodness.
So
I
still haven't read it,
That's fine.
so I won't have a lot to contribute.
No, it's fine. I just.
Yet.
This is the point. The point of this is to just give you some material so you can. You have a record of me talking about it. Then maybe you can go back and check out the sources or whatever. And it's also to reach out to my friends, plural, in Singapore and UK. I don't use Facebook, so I lost contact with most of the guys. But there are some people who are actually, strangely enough, still interested.
You have the most unique way of staying in touch with people online out of anybody that I know. Most people just send a text.
It's one way. I mean, Guian, a while ago, I got into contact with Guian in Singapore, and it's like, oh, you're still around. I was like, no. Just because you don't use Facebook doesn't mean you've disappeared off the face of the earth. But that's what it is. That's what it is. So, let me think.
Feels like that. I use Facebook maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. I check to see if anybody sent messages, and maybe just to write something to appease the adoring fans out there. But
this is another conversation for next
when
time.
people disappear from Facebook, though, it feels like they're dead, man.
Yeah. But actually, I'm actually banned from Facebook. Believe it
Really?
or not. Yeah, I'm banned from Facebook because
Not just because of the Great Firewall of China, but
No.
Facebook actually banned you?
Yeah, I'm on a blacklist. So if I make a Facebook profile with either my name, just Xing Fang, first name, last name,
Okay.
or I put up a photo of me, which is interesting because that means that Facebook has trained
So they
AI.
got facial recognition software. If they see you, they're going to be like, not this guy again.
Right. So
what happened? How did you get booted from Facebook?
The guys in UK, so Jake Goldsmith and Blaine McCartney, shout out to both of you.
My sister gets kicked off Facebook like every 2 weeks for posting
Right.
funny memes.
Yeah.
Like seriously, she posts funny memes and then gets kicked off for 2 weeks.
And Eric, if you're all watching this, they know the story about this, which is that this guy called Cooper Wilson, who was on some level a bit depressed. Okay. And he was doing this thing where he acts as if he's talking about philosophy, but he's actually just framing his musings that are rather a bit of a downer into quote-unquote pseudo-philosophical terms. And we got in an argument, and afterwards he phrased things in a way that was he phrased things in a way that was meant to get to you. So it got to me because I was in university at the time. I was quite stressed out over other things. And afterwards, I left Facebook for a while. I deleted my account. Then I created a new account just to get back at him. Right. And
so
then
there was like a grudge going on.
Right.
Ooh.
And then he blocked me. But that was not the end of it because I was quite tight with the philosophy guys. Mark Seymour from the old group called it, I don't have contact with Mark Seymour anymore, but he called it Phil Book. So there's a bunch of guys who managed to
How did it feel when he blocked you?
No, on some level, it's just
because fairly recently I found out that a dude I was following on Instagram unfollowed me, and I took that personally. I was like, "You little jerk!" And it's like at a logical level, I'm like, "Why? I don't need to get mad about this. Like, who cares?" But like my gut instinct is like, you jerk, I hate you. How could you?
No.
It's silly, but it's a very real thing that happens inside of us.
The thing about Cooper was that I had, on some level, I liked talking to basically the guys in the field book. And in Jake Goldsmith's group, there was two groups. One is called the Barrel, as in a wine barrel, because it was modeled after, we're getting into Spinoza. Okay,
we'll get there. Eventually.
Because in ancient philosophy, most people think of Plato and Socrates, which is actually quite boring, because the writings.
How dare you?
Because the writings of Socrates, the portrayal of Socrates, we have only through Plato's writing, and there's some degree of actual argument about whether Plato repurposed Socrates' teachings for his own philosophy. Because if you read Socrates, like the Republic,
but isn't that what like literally every philosophy professor does now? They just repurpose the old philosophers.
No, but it's even
and regurgitate them and like, look how intellectual I am.
There is that thing, but if you read the Republic, we actually in our old group, the Barrel, there was a meme. Someone made a meme of, It the clown. So someone made a meme of It the clown, but he's engaging with dialogue with a child and he's getting the child to take a gift from him or whatever. But it's written a Socratic dialogue, which is really strange because no one talks like that. So the clown is saying to the boy, "Come, boy, take a balloon from me." And then the boy's like, "No, my father says I shouldn't take gifts from strangers." And then the guy starts writing because he knows that thing. That is wise. Your father is a very wise man. Let us examine this train of argument. If you take the gift from me, the song is like, if you take the gift from me, we are now strangers. But if you take the gift from me, what would you define a stranger as? Blah, blah, blah.
Can you imagine if the movie actually played out like that?
Oh my goodness. But and at the end, it was like, the boy is like, well, you do raise a good point, the clown. You raise a good point. Right, so now it's time for you to take the balloon from me. But I have to go now, the clown. Bye-bye. And it's like, clown is like, ugh.
As if you could rationalize with a small child like that.
Right. But okay, so there was a group, the Barrel, and Plato is quite boring to read. And there was a guy called Diogenes the Cynic. So Diogenes the Cynic is much more interesting to read. So the original group, the Barrel, is built on Diogenes the Cynic. There was a video game called Getting Over It.
Okay, I haven't played that one.
Okay, people on the internet should know about this game. It's modeled after Diogenes. So there was that group.
Is it one of those indie games?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there was another group that Jake Goldsmith started, which is called FRENS, Friends, which is a deliberate misspelling of friends. But I'm on good terms with most of the guys in the Barrel and Friends, but Cooper Wilson really got to me. So on some level, when he blocked me, it was like, so you have a tolerance, you have a cutoff point of annoyance as well. Things get to you as well. So it's like, okay. So that was that.
So we had a change of scenery?
Yeah, this is budget, by the way.
We're talking about how do you say that?
Diogenes.
Diogenes?
Diogenes, Diogenes, also called the Cynic.
The Cynic.
Right, because he lived like a dog, and cynic is an ancient Greek word for dog-like.
I had no idea.
Well,
so when people are saying they're cynical, they're being dog-like.
Right, because the old thing was that dogs had no sense of shame. So Diogenes took it as a model of virtue, which was interesting enough because everyone knows about Socrates going to the Oracle of Delphi. Actually, it wasn't Socrates. Someone else went to Oracle of Delphi asking, is there anyone wiser than Socrates? And to which the Oracle of Delphi said no, which is like, okay, whatever, boring. But Diogenes went to the Oracle of Delphi as well, and he was asking for a prophecy to which how to behave in Athens, to which the Oracle of Delphi said, quote unquote, deface the currency. And he interpreted that as meaning challenging the social customs of Athens. So he lived like a beggar in the wine jar or the barrel. And
hence the name Barrel. Okay.
Right. And what's interesting...
So this guy coined a lot of terms, I see.
But what's interesting is that when you get the Roman period, cynicism became cleaned up into Stoicism, which goes into your video about Epicurus and...
yes.
Yes. Because there was a guy called Zeno, and he thought cynicism is super cool, but you can't do that in the Roman Republic. So he had to clean up somehow. So then it became Stoicism, and then Stoics have an argument with the Epicureans. So they are like essentially opposite factions, essentially.
Interesting. So I'm still left on that cliffhanger of why Spinoza is
the most
important in philosophy.
A while ago my wife, actually girlfriend at the time, asked me for English lessons. It turned out to be really bad because I accepted payment from her, and then that turned out disastrously because the arguments wouldn't stop. So after I just stopped doing that, and then things went back to normal, thankfully. So something I learned. But if anyone do come to me and I manage to get them to read one book about philosophy, is the Spinoza. If you read Spinoza's Ethics, you're fine. You can do anything you want, really. You just
was he a moral relativist?
No, he was actually in some sense the exact opposite. He was an absolutist.
Okay.
Because he wrote the Ethics using Euclidean geometry, axiomatic deduction.
Okay.
So what he, you go into university. This is gonna be a bit academic. So whatever.
Brace yourselves for academia, guys.
There's always this favorite talks like, can science and religion ever agree on anything? Ah, yes, but you see, science cannot prove the existence of God, blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys, Spinoza wrote a book. He demonstrated the existence of the divine, and he said that the existence of divine, according to him, is really indistinguishable from nature and all reality. He calls it Deus Sive Natura, which is a Latin term, $5 college word. Got it from Ramsey.
Interesting.
Deus Sive Natura, which is God or nature. So, but that's not the real sell of the book. The real sell of the book is that there are famous guys in science, philosophy, and literature who are all on some level students of Spinoza. So in science, it would be Albert Einstein. Recently, Elon Musk got interviewed by the Babylon Bee, and they asked him if he would accept the Lord into his life. And Elon Musk was like, sure, whatever. Okay. But he said this thing, which is that he believed in what Einstein said, which is Spinoza's quote unquote God, God, divine presence, which is what Einstein actually himself said, because it's so Einstein is a student of Spinoza. Goethe was a student of Spinoza as well, the great literary German dude. I know you don't like him, Hegel really likes Spinoza. So if you don't want to talk about Hegel, we can talk about Bertrand Russell. He was a student of Spinoza.
Well, here's the thought I was having as you were discussing science and religion. Can they ever get on? Look, if we are out to prove or disprove something, we are neither being scientific nor religious. Like really, we're not. It's not the scientific method to say, I am going to prove the existence of whatever, God or dark matter or whatever thing you're trying to prove. A scientist observes and records and tries to repeat outcomes.
Yep, pretty much, yep.
And what is religion? Religion is defined a ton of different ways, depending on who's doing it. You can look it up in the dictionary and find 400 or 500 different definitions, ranging from a belief in some supernatural phenomena to, as the Apostle James put it in the Bible, pure religion and undefiled is to look after the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, to give to those in need. It's action, not belief.
Yeah.
Faith is acting on a belief.
I really like what you said about it being a verb rather than a noun. Actually, I was thinking about that. Like, there's a word that goes around a lot. People talk about quote unquote integrity, which makes no sense because it's kind of a noun. And the only time I've ever heard people use the word integrity in a sentence that conveyed meaning was when they use it negatively. So every time someone talks about integrity in the positive sense, like, are you trying to sell me something? It's like always that sort of feeling. So, and then I thought about it. I said, oh, integrity is a verb, not a noun. Right, it's like what Ramsey said. So it's like, yeah.
Like, show me your faith. That's a quote from the book of James, taken out of context. He said, some people might tell you, show me your faith, demonstrate your faith. Right? Show me God, prove it. And he said, I will show you my faith by my works.
Right. The thing here is that on some level, I think I was thinking about this yesterday. Actually, I remember this yesterday. I can't remember, it was Bertrand Russell who said this, or actually Schopenhauer. He definitely said this. He said that the thing about religion and metaphysics actually share the same space. So if we talk about the religious and we use the mystical language when you're doing the religious stuff. So most of the time I hang out with the Zen, and most of the time I like Zen Buddhism stuff. So I talk about koans and stuff.
Yeah.
When like Genki Sudo is a Zen Buddhist, even though I'd never been to a Japanese Zen Buddhist temple. So I'm like, so who, you're a Zen Buddhist? Yeah. Which temple you go to? Like I read books about Zen Buddhism. I'm not sure if that counts. But metaphysics is also lines up quite well. So to go back to your point about it proving or not proving something, which is exactly the point, because you can't prove or disprove a metaphysical doctrine, which is that you either like sign up for it or you just sort of like, no, not my kind of deal. So it's like the colloquial quote unquote lens through which you look at the world through.
Yeah, and the real philosophical question, if we're bringing this back to philosophy, is why, right? So instead of does God exist, it's like why does it matter if he does or if he doesn't? Or more specifically, if we go back to James, I will show you my faith by my works. Okay, why do the works matter? Why does it matter if we see someone who's hungry and destitute and cold and freezing and dying out on the street, and if we help them out, if we help that guy get back on his feet, why does it matter? What does that do? Maybe it makes us feel good. It makes him feel good. Maybe it improves society as a whole, or at least in part.
Oh,
okay.
Yep.
Is that scientific? Is that repeatable?
It reminds me of something else, but that's not answering your question directly. I've been coming to coach's class for like 3 years now, 2020 August. Recently I met Dr. Ang, not Dr. Ang, I didn't meet him, I saw a video chat of him. It was like, and last year, he's the one who gives me the olanzapine, which is a kind of medication that I was on to deal with basically insomnia, essentially.
Yeah. Sorry, these geek pants are...
Right. So coach had to deal with me for 3 years while being on the meds. So there was, I think, Dr. Ang at some point is like, I suspect that you're slightly autistic. You have Asperger's syndrome. It's like, I thought in my head, it's like, no, Dr. Ang, I'm on this meds. It's sedating me. That's why I can't socialize that well. But so like now that I'm off the meds, what's interesting is that we're doing this thing sort of like to recompensate coach for dealing with me for 3 years while on the meds.
It wasn't that bad, dude.
It's all right.
Wasn't that bad.
Okay. But another interesting thing is that I'm doing keto now, which is the reason I can come off the meds. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Yeah, you talked about this a lot. Like the changes in your diet have changed your, not just the way you feel physically, but mentally.
Yeah, I can come off.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
I can come off the meds if I do keto. Otherwise, if I'm not on keto, I'll get off the meds for about maybe 3 or 4 days, right? And then I'll get to the point about the ethical point you brought up just now about the divine, which is that now that I'm off the meds and I'm keto, I'll just get to that point. I'll say that point first, actually.
Sure.
I'm much more tuned in socially, whereas before I think there was this kind of, if you look online, people talk about this benzo bubble, which is I can say this on YouTube. Benzo bubble.
We can't say it on YouTube?
I don't think so. Thomas DeLauer, a keto guy, says you should. Oh, no.
Is it like a prescription drug name or?
Dr. Peterson was on it. That's the whole controversy thing where he had to go to Russia to get off it, essentially. It's essentially it's a
drug name?
It's a sedative. No, it's a class of drugs.
It's a class of drugs.
It's a sedation. It's a sedative mechanism medication to help him.
And if we talk about it on YouTube, we'll get banned
you can't say
for drug-related content.
No, I think the name itself is okay, but you can't say one of the brand names. I think
YouTube is weird lately. I'm watching a video about child abuse.
Oh boy!
And they're discussing this very important topic about how to stop child abuse, basically. Child abuse shouldn't happen.
Right.
And they have to censor every other word, common, normal words that are necessary to discuss this topic.
Oh boy!
And they can't say them.
Right.
They've got to bleep them out like they're swear words. They're not swear words. This is weird, man.
Anyways, but to get to the okay, now I have to finish this point. Then maybe we can talk about that, and then we'll move on to the other thing. Oh man. So while I'm on the meds, my concerns are much more epistemic. So that's like $5 college words, which means I'm much more interested in technical things, which is why Dr. Ang said, well, you might have Asperger's. You should look into this. Like, no, Dr. Ang, I'm on the meds. But now I'm off the meds, I'm much more tuned in into like, quote unquote, you can't really ever be tuned in into it because the ethical demands are on some level, as Wittgenstein said, transcendent. You can never, as Jonathan Pageau, one of Dr. Peterson's friends, said, the divine is a receding ideal. So you can't really be completely ethical, but on some level, you're much more tuned. I can say that I'm much more tuned into it than when I was on the meds, because when Dr. Peterson was blowing up, Michaela Peterson, who was on antidepressants, got featured on the JRE.
Okay, yeah.
And then she said that antidepressants... I
saw that episode, yeah.
Right. It essentially cuts off the top part of the experience and the bottom part of the experience. So it's like you just left the middle because it's a mood stabilizer.
Okay.
So a mood stabilizer, by definition, is supposed to keep you in the middle part of the mood, so you don't have the top and the bottom. But you can't relate to people because the top part of and the bottom part of the experience are completely gone.
You're neither hot nor cold. There's no extreme. You're just... Yeah, wow, that's interesting. Essentially, they're removing two of the fundamental necessary parts of the human experience.
It's like, the thing I think about is like running a computer. Do you ever use one of those old Windows computer?
Yeah.
You know, if you press a certain button during startup, you can start your computer in safe mode.
Safe mode. Not familiar with that, no.
A safe mode is a...
Yes.
It's
been a while, but I remember, yes.
Right.
Safe mode.
You can't do a lot of things, but you can't install any software, but the computer will always...
Safe mode sucks. That's what I remember about
Exactly.
it. You can't do anything cool with safe mode.
Right. Your computer will always boot and run smoothly. It won't crash, but you can't do anything cool. So that's basically what the meds is like. So apologize to Jake Goldsmith and Blaine McCartney, who also had to deal with me when I was on the meds. But I was also getting stressed out by my university at that time, but that's a separate topic entirely for the future. But so much more to the ethical stuff. Then, right. And then there was another conversation I was trying to get to, which I've forgotten completely. And now we can... That's
all right.
We can talk about YouTube.
We can go wherever, man. We can go wherever.
We can talk about YouTube being censoring.
You know what they used to censor a lot? The word bully. And they might still be censoring it to some degree, but you could not write the word bully in the title or the description of a video without it instantly getting demonetized or just straight out banned. You could make a video, an anti-bullying video.
Right.
Bullying is bad.
Right.
We shouldn't bully other people.
Right.
We shouldn't be bullies.
Right.
Here's how to address the issue of bullying in schools or with children. And that video would go on a blacklist just for using that word.
Right. Interesting.
There was this assumption that by using the word bully, you are bullying people.
Wait, isn't demonetization itself a demonetized word?
Probably. The list of demonetized words that will get you blacklisted from YouTube, it's constantly updating. It's constantly changing. You sent me a list of them.
Yes, exactly.
That was accurate like a year or so ago, and it was like thousands of words.
Yeah.
And I looked through it and I'm like, wow, this is so fascinating. And that list gets updated on the daily.
Oh, yeah. He has a Patreon account. I can't remember what the YouTube channel guy's name is. I think it's YouTube Secrets. It might not be it. But he has a Patreon account to help people keep him updating the words, because he essentially tests videos. He will upload test videos with the words. Yeah,
we've essentially put our trust in machines, in algorithms.
Oh, boy.
And I was thinking about computers the other day.
But maybe we can finish this thought and then you can sort of backtrack. And there was a train of thought. I was trying to go somewhere. I forgot what it was, but maybe you were talking about James and the ethical dimension, and then you asked me a question. But yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll circle back to that. But computers, man, computers. Right. What is a computer but an attempt to manipulate the universe through the power of language?
I think we're talking about metaphysics, but
we are and we aren't. We're talking about how metaphysics and physics reach reality. We have this goal as humans. We want to build machines to make life easier. We make a lever to move a weight around easier and so on. We get to this digital age where we have the ability to literally speak words to a computer and have it reply to us and have it do something, to make an action. We're in the process of building robots that we can speak to, and they will interact with us and they can do things. Robot comes from the Russian word robota, meaning to work.
Huh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it comes from this old play about these automatons that would do work.
A play?
Yeah, a play.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's where the word robot comes from, a Russian play.
Right.
Anyway, so I'm thinking about this, and the parallel between this idea that humans have this aspiration to be essentially be as lazy as possible by getting robots to do our work for us, by speaking to computers, either typing in words or saying words or programming words through code to make the machine do something for us. And that made me think of Genesis chapter 1,
right,
where God speaks words, and the universe obeys. The earth was out without form and void, and God says, "Let there be light," and there is light. He speaks the word, and it happens. And I thought, it's so interesting that in a way, computers, our pursuit of advanced computer technology is our attempt to be
transcend our mortal condition.
To transcend our mortal condition, where we can simply speak the word, and it will be so, and it will be good.
But you know what's interesting though? I'm gonna view. By the way, if you watch YouTube, there's so many of those videos with the thumbnail or the title that says, like with Elon Musk or Dr. Peterson or Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan would be him wiping his face, looking sad. Dr. Peterson would be like doing this. Elon Musk would be like, okay, and
they got the expressive faces.
Yeah, right. And then thumbnail or the title would be like, "This is my final warning," or "I tried to warn you about AI, but no one would." It's like, and
nobody would listen.
ChatGPT is kind of fun to talk to because, I mean, recently I was talking to it about stainless steel. And I asked him, I bought a pair of scissors and it just keeps rusting. So what's up with the steel? Then it's like, oh, you have a lousy pair of scissors. It doesn't say this actually. It's quite diplomatic.
Stainless doesn't mean it can't rust.
Right, but it's not even stainless, right? I just got it from the convenience store.
Okay.
And then the conversation becomes stainless steel. Then I was like, oh, okay, do you know about metallurgy? So it's like, ask ChatGPT. Yeah, stainless steel. I know it has carbon in it. Okay, cool. Do you know about the elemental composition of stainless steel? I asked the chat. And he said, yeah, I know. 304 stainless steel, and then gives me an elemental rundown. So it'll be like chromium, cobalt, nickel, etc. I was like,
okay.
Wow. It's surprisingly well informed on like technical subjects, which is not what everyone wants to use it for. Everyone wants to ask it about, I don't know what people ask ChatGPT.
You know what they want to use it for?
What?
They want to mod Skyrim so the NPCs can have real conversations with them.
Right.
That's what people are using. They're using ChatGPT for, and also to do their homework for them.
Oh yeah.
And not just that, not just doing their homework. Teachers are using this to write their lesson plans. I kid you not. Teachers are using ChatGPT to write their lesson plans. So essentially, our children are now being educated by AI.
The problem on some level, but it's like...
And what is ChatGPT? It's essentially a photograph of the internet and then just making composite guesses based on that information.
Well, on some level, there's so many things you can say, but none of them are very interesting because it's been said 1,000 times before. But
well, that's okay. You know, every video about martial arts, for example, is kind of the same video. Even the bad ones. The good ones and the bad ones alike.
Right.
And you can say the same thing over and over again. It can be very interesting or it can be absolutely dull. For example, I was reading through the comments section on this video about some religious topic. I don't remember what, but I'm reading through this thing and somebody makes a comment that offends somebody else. He offended this guy who didn't believe what the other guy believed about religion. And the guy said, he repeated this diatribe that I have read in the YouTube comment section hundreds of times, word for word, in so many different topics, that included phrases like, your ignorance is showing You should do some research.
Interesting.
How many times have you heard that in the YouTube comment section? You should do your research first. Misinformation. Do your research and misinformation. If these two things come together, you're not talking to a serious person. You are talking to a AI in humanoid form who is repeating a photograph of what they've already seen on the internet.
Right. Okay. I'll do three things. I'll say what I was thinking about AI just now. Oh, the internet goes. Oh yeah, another video about AI. I'll say what you just said.
We say that life imitates art. Right now, life is imitating machine.
It's like the Stanley Kubrick 2001 thing, where the AI is the only thing that was vaguely human. Show emotions, where every other human is it's like completely robot-like. But even then, it's like, and then I'll get back to the point about philosophy, which is about Spinoza.
Yeah, we still haven't touched on Spinoza. So what's his deal? Like, if you were to summarize Spinoza in like just a couple of sentences, like what's his deal?
Okay, I'll say the AI thing, then I'll have to tie different threads together as far as I can.
Okay.
So with the AI thing on some level, it's like, oh man, look, it's a box. So either the box does everything you expect it to, then we don't have the problem of AI educating you handing over quote unquote agency to the AI. But then it's just boring because it's a box that everything that's going to go into it. Or it's a black box, and it's kind of interesting to talk to because like I said before, I talk to AI about stainless steel composition, and also talk to it sometimes about interpreting different philosophical jargons, which is quite good actually. So then it's a black box, and then you don't know what's going into it, but it's fun to talk to. But then you're gonna have people who rely on it for the wrong reason. So whatever, it's a tool. Okay, so the tool comes first. Then, as a culture, you start to talk about how to relegate the tool into somewhere where it belongs. But even on that level, we haven't even done that with the internet and social media. Social media is just still this wild thing, like to tie into your YouTube thing. YouTube is being regulated by Google itself, and no one cares about it. Like no government agency cares about it. Maybe, I don't know.
What's even crazier about social media is it really hasn't changed at all since the inception of the internet, except for being governed by AI.
Right.
But the interface, it's just people typing messages to each other, sending videos and posting pictures.
But even then, on some level, we're talking about these things, which is like we read news, right? And then we talk about them, which is even guys you see like Sam Harris and Eric Weinstein, who I actually listen to a lot, Eric Weinstein recently more and more, who's the brother of Brett Weinstein. You're just reading news and you're sharing your thoughts on news. So, and then obviously Elon Musk, quote unquote, bought Twitter, and then he finds out that Twitter is actually on some level cooperating with the American Secret Service. So maybe the government does know. So on some level, we're speculating about Plato.
I still haven't figured out how to navigate Twitter.
Don't. It's
like I know how to repost video links from my YouTube channel to Twitter. That's pretty much all I use it for. But every time I've tried to navigate through Twitter to see anything that might be interesting, all it does is shows me a very specific feed of very specific people that are in the popular culture, people the internet wants you to recognize.
Maybe we can work on it in the future, but generally speaking, don't use Twitter because it's a bit like 4chan. 4chan is a bad place of the internet.
So I've heard.
It's a place that in the city you don't go to, if that makes any sense.
So 4chan is the dark alley of the internet?
Right, where things happen and memes.
You ever use that website?
I used it to ask for homework help once. Okay. That was in university. University was a strange time.
Okay.
And
how did that work out? You got mugged?
No. I asked them, guys, I'm writing an essay on flat panel display, but I'm stuck in writer's block, so I need a contrarian voice. And I didn't say this, but 4chan is basically the most contrarian place on the internet. Give me an antithesis so I can work towards it. In the end, I wrote like 2 sentences. They didn't help. But the first post is, flat panel displays are for, I can't say the word on YouTube, okay? 3-letter word, starts with F, rhymes with bag, okay?
Okay.
To which I replied, you're looking at one right now. Wouldn't that make you, okay, whatever. And then the second comment is like, actually, you should look into curved flat panel displays. There are some people who are quite interested in using it. It's like, oh yeah, thank you. And that's a contrarian voice I was looking for, but it didn't help. I wrote 2 sentences for the essay. They barely passed me because it was like, okay, if we fail you, you're gonna have to retake the year. So never mind. Second point about some things being just downright, the YouTube comment section being like AI in humanoid forms.
AI in humanoid form. Yeah. So when I said that, they're actual human beings writing these things.
I know.
But they're writing the things that the screen has trained them to write. They've been trained to think and act and write and interact on the internet in this very specific way.
A while ago.
And not by humans.
Right. My wife took me out with her friends who have a pair of twin sons and her friends. So I think like 4 of us, went to see a Chinese movie. You're gonna like the plot, by the way. It's about a group of Chinese diplomats who go to the Middle East to rescue people who are living there, but they have to cross a desert.
Oh.
They have to cross a desert in the Middle East. And this man is like the heroic person who takes them across the desert.
So it's kind of like some political intrigue meets Lawrence of Arabia in Chinese.
There's a old Genesis person, which I think you should know about.
Yeah.
The Old Testament person who took some group of people out of the desert.
Moses?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But the point is, I was watching this movie, it's like, oh, okay, they're doing this thing. They don't seem to be doing it ironically. Okay, if it's ironic, I can appreciate it. Like a mockumentary. But
so this was like kind of like a Chinese retelling of the Exodus story?
Yes, in a way,
huh.
Right?
Wow.
I can't remember the movie itself already. But and I thought, well, on some level, I could try to appreciate it like it was ironic. But people in the movie theater are gonna notice my discordant response. So like someone would do something tragic would happen, I'll start laughing. So that's not good. So for the rest of the movie, I just stared very concentratedly at the corner of the screen to not pay attention to the plot.
You know, going to the movies in China is interesting. When you watch like an American movie,
right,
and then the Chinese locals laugh at the parts that they're not intended to laugh at. Like I saw the live action Mulan movie. Right. Did you see that one?
I did not see it. I don't even watch. Yeah.
You're familiar with the story of Hua Mulan, right?
I know some part of the Disney version.
Okay. And they made a Disney animated film, and then they made the live action film.
Right.
Which is way different than the animated one.
Right.
The live action one, they introduced all these elements of magic.
Right.
That aren't there in the original story, and they're not there in the Disney cartoon either, which is weird because generally cartoons are more magic based than like a live action would be. And there's a scene where Mulan is talking to this kung fu master guy. Right. And the kung fu master guy is like, "You must harness your inner chi power." And then everybody in the theater starts laughing hysterically, like, yes, you must use your chi energy to do this crazy kung fu magic trick. And it's funny because like the Chinese are familiar with like the wuxia genre.
Right, they are.
Right? Which is basically magical kung fu movies.
Yeah.
But there's this, they go in with a certain expectation that people are going to fly through the air and people are going to, they're literally going to do magic on the screen. We accept this magical reality going into the wuxia film.
Right.
In a live action Mulan remake, and which is supposedly based on a cartoon, which is for the most part grounded in reality, even though it has, you know, like a talking magical dragon creature.
Right.
But outside of that, it's, you know, it's more or less based in reality. People, we have soldiers fighting on the ground and so on. There's a war happening.
They couldn't take it in. It's like sort of the wrong frame for the right trope.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like they had some wuxia elements in it, but it wasn't a wuxia film, so it didn't fit, and people just started busting up laughing. Another time I saw this. Iron Man 2.
Interesting.
Or was it 3? I don't remember. One of the Iron Man movies, maybe 2 of them.
Okay.
There was a scene where in the Chinese version it was different than the American version.
Okay.
They tried to Chineseify it a little bit.
Okay.
To make it more interesting for Chinese audiences, which I think was a huge mistake.
Okay.
Because when Chinese people go to an American movie,
they want an American experience.
Exactly, they want an American experience.
You go to people actually go. People actually think. Oh my goodness.
You go to McDonald's for a Big Mac, not for a bowl of rice. Man.
Right. Starbucks is actually a luxury item. Whereas if you go, when I spend time in London, I'm going to be slightly ironic because Marvin is like, one day I wrote him, I'm here to bring the London TM trademark experience. Because
you want to have that authentic foreign experience when you go to the authentic foreign thing, right?
Starbucks in London is actually kind of like it's not upmarket, so that's kind of like slightly surprising. Starbucks is not upmarket in London. It's sort of like actually middle or even slightly down market, at least middle. So that's mildly interesting. Whereas in Asian countries, it's like the place where you go to do conspicuous spending, essentially.
Yeah, it's like more high end here. Mm-hmm. Same thing with like Pizza Hut.
Is it?
Like in America, Pizza Hut's just a pizza place. In China, though, it's a nice sit-down restaurant where you can order a steak and pizza if you want.
Pizza Hut in China is quite nice, actually.
It is, man. The first time I went to a Pizza Hut, a Chinese friend of mine said, "Yeah, let's go to Pizza Hut," and I thought, "Okay, cool. We'll get some pizza." It's basically a glorified fast food restaurant in America, and in China, again, it's a nice sit-down restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Totally different menu.
But okay, then, so what happened in Iron Man movie?
Yeah, so 2 scenes that they added for the Chinese version. One, there is some sort of Chinese government guy giving a speech outside of the Forbidden City, and a bunch of school children are cheering. And then Iron Man flies by and poses next to this government official and waves, and all the children are like, "Yay, it's Iron Man, Chinese patriotism, hooray." And the scene plays out, and people at the theater start laughing. They're like, "This doesn't fit in the movie. What the heck? Like, we just switched genres."
I'm just getting headache thinking about it.
And then the very last scene, there was this post-credit scene where Iron Man is like dying because he has an artificial heart that's failing him.
Interesting.
And so he needs to get this doctor who's played by like a famous Chinese soap opera star or something.
Oh, okay.
And then Fan Bingbing, is that her name?
I think I've heard
She plays like the doctor's assistant.
Okay.
And the movie suddenly switches genres 100%, and it turns into like a Chinese medical drama.
Huh.
In the closing scene. So it goes from like, your typical Western action superhero Marvel movie to Chinese medical drama, and the whole tone, the acting, there's nothing wrong with their acting if they're in a Chinese medical drama, but in a Marvel movie, it was so out of place. And some people start laughing uncomfortably. Right. Like one of these things is not like the other. It doesn't fit.
You mean like Dr. House kind of thing? House MD.
I haven't seen that show, but maybe.
Is it when?
I think the last U.S. medical drama I saw was, what was that called?
I didn't even watch that
ER back in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while since I watched American TV, man.
Okay, I'll say this, and then we'll get to Spinoza. Man, in high school I used to watch some clips of. I actually tried watching the what was it called? Do 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 do.
Was that the theme song?
Yeah. Do do. What was it called?
American TV show? MASH, yeah.
I tried to watch it, but it's sort of like out of my time period, because it's supposed to be this thing that came out after 1960s, 1970s thing.
That was a oddly genred show, because it was like part serious medical drama and part lighthearted comedy. Right. Like these 2 genres that really shouldn't mesh, and yet they did it, and it ran for so long on TV.
The two main guys were both doctors or something, right?
Yeah.
But I tried watching it, but the humor style wasn't like my thing, but yeah, it was interesting. So back to Spinoza, we're gonna just try to do this, and then maybe wrap up. So,
in conclusion, what is Spinoza all about?
So there's ancient philosophy, so like Greek stuff, then there's Roman stuff, then there's Middle Ages. So that's like Bertrand Russell's classification. There's the first part. Then middle part is Middle Ages. And then after the Middle Ages, you get a guy called Descartes. So cogito ergo sum.
René Descartes?
Yep, René Descartes.
Okay.
He thinks, therefore he is. Anyways. And then Descartes basically ended the Middle Ages philosophy, which is mostly characterized. I didn't read a lot. I read some St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas
Okay.
Then with Descartes had a problem which is called mind-body dualism, which is that your mind is this thing, but your body is this thing, and how does the two interact? And his argument was that in your brain there's this thing called the pineal gland, I think, modern biology, and that.
So he's basically the guy who popularized the idea that the mind and the body are two separate entities, and you got to reconcile the two somehow.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of people actually live under this kind of double paradigm, but they don't even study it, so they can't even articulate the thing they're facing. So you have people who either specialize in thinking stuff, and then they either specialize in physical culture stuff. But as you say, they shouldn't be separate. Like they should be, your gym should be, and your library should be the same thing. So Spinoza came in, and he was a student of Descartes, and he comes from Jewish Is it Jewish Amsterdam? I think it was Jewish Amsterdam. So it was part of the Spanish Inquisition thing, I think. And he didn't align with the Old Testament beliefs about the historicity. So he wrote 2 books. One is called that's Wittgenstein, sorry. Theological Political Treatise, which is TPT, where he fleshed out his views in much more coherent manner, like an essay. But the essay received a bad reception from the public. It was like, "Oh, who's a Spinoza guy? You're anti-religious," even though he explains some part of the Bible quite clearly. Like he says that, what did he say? I think he said that he agrees that he agrees with what the Lord said in the Gospel is that a whole of the laws can be condensed down to the axiom, or is it the commandment? Treat your neighbors as yourself. Right.
Love God above all else. First commandment. The second one likened to it. Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right. Which actually, I have to say, on some level, I can't. It's kind of hard for me to do, because, like, if someone has the same interests as I do, okay,
it's the hardest, man.
If someone has the same interests as I do, it's like, okay, sure, man. Well, we have a similar interest. But if someone's like, I try to talk to them about something interesting, it's like, whatever. I gotta go to work. It's like, but whatever.
Like it's not just kind of hard to do. It's really quite literally the hardest thing to do. We gotta ask, like, what is love, right? But quite simply, it's
this is a meme.
Self-sacrifice. Look, if you held your hand to a flame,
this is the Sam Harris.
You would immediately pull it out and be like, "No, this is my hand. This matters." If you see somebody else's hand over a flame,
you want to feel it.
You might have a sympathetic reaction, like, "I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to suffer." But you're not going to react the same way.
But
maybe you'll run over there if you care about that person to pull their hand away from it. But it's going to be different.
On some level, though, like,
on the other hand, if you have no love, no compassion at all, you'll just want to watch and be like, let's see this person burn their own hand, because there's no love there.
Right.
If you love them as yourself, obviously you'll do what you can to address that issue.
Right. Wait, actually, when the gospel uses that word, is it agape throughout the whole thing, or do they use different Greek words?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. I have not yet read the entire Vulgate, the New Testament in Greek.
Okay. I'm just curious. But on some level, like, even like guys who are, I have to say this, like, I had a discussion with Sina, who comes from the Middle East. I'm just gonna say it.
It's also interesting that when Jesus said that, "Love your neighbor as yourself," he was speaking in Aramaic rather than Greek. So when we have Matthew writing this down in Greek,
he wrote in Koine Greek.
He wrote it in Koine Greek.
Yeah.
Right. He's translating Aramaic. A memory of Jesus saying this thing in Aramaic, and he's writing it in Greek. And so when we get really pedantic about, well, what does the original Koine Greek say?
Right. It's more like, what did the original Aramaic say, right? Aramaic.
Yeah, I don't think that's nearly as useful as, well, what's the original intention here?
Right. But, like, so this is the point I was making. So Sam Harris, we'll dive into that topic separate about Sina. Sam Harris, who is from he's Hebrew. I'm just going to say it, because Jewish is a religious denomination, whereas if you call someone by the ethnicity, you should call them by Hebrew. I'm just gonna say it like Chinese people speak Chinese, English people speak English. They speak Hebrew. This is an ancient language. Obviously, they don't speak it now. So maybe you can call them Hebrew. I don't know.
So we're just talking about ethnic Jews rather than religious Jews.
Yeah, I'm just going to call them Hebrew or ethnic Jews. I'm going to call them Hebrew, maybe whatever. But Sam Harris is from that place, so he knows the Bible.
Okay.
Those texts. He says that like the love your neighbor as yourself on some level actually extends to only your own ethnic group. So it doesn't extend to other ethnic group in the original thing. So we're obviously on some level talking about hermeneutics or critical scholarship. So that's somewhat interesting.
Yeah. Although if you're classifying Jewish people as Hebrews, technically, if we're going to be pedantic about that, which we totally can,
go on.
We're excluding the entire northern kingdom of Israel, the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh and Naphtali and Asher and Dan and Simeon and all the other 10 tribes that were conquered by the was it Assyria or the Babylonians? I don't remember.
Right.
They were conquered a lot, carried captive, scattered throughout the entire world. So they're technically Hebrews throughout the entire world who were not Jewish. The descendants of the people of the southern kingdom.
Is this part of
Judah?
Is this part of your Caucasian being a weird word argument?
Oh yeah, I hate it when people call white people Caucasians.
But it's better than the color, isn't it? At least it's some attempt at being labeling ethnicity.
It's both are problematic because if you hold up a brown egg and a white egg and hold them next to the skin of a white person, the white person is the same color as the brown egg, not the white egg. Right. A Caucasian means from the Caucasus Mountains.
Right.
From essentially the Ural Mountains area. Basically, like if you're from the Republic of Georgia, you're probably ethnically Caucasian. If you're from the areas around that place, you're probably Caucasian.
So suppose I extend the principle of charity, which is the idea in philosophy that even if you don't agree with someone, you can let them run their argument. So suppose I say I give that to your argument. So what should I call people by ethnicity, or should I just not try at all?
It's most of the time we don't need to. We really don't need to. Like when I say I'm like, Fang, my Chinese Asian
that's fine
friend with a slightly different skin tone than me and the slightly different shape of eyes and darker hair. I don't say that. I'm like, hey Fang, how you doing?
Yeah.
But now if there's a group of 100 people and you're one of them and they all have different physical characteristics and I have to describe you to someone who doesn't know you, then I might say, he's the Chinese guy right there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's like, I don't know, man. It's
not the best
weird.
tool in the world. It's not the best tool in the world then. Well,
we don't have great descriptive terms. Like we say black people, but they're not actually black. These are black. This fabric is black.
Just call them African Americans.
We can call them African American, but
on some level, it's an ethnic /
But at the same time, it's like most African Americans are so many generations removed from Africa.
I understand that. Yeah.
It's like the cultural divide is massive. Like,
oh man.
Well, I have a lot of friends from Africa.
Right.
I have a lot of friends from Africa that I met here in China. There's a big cultural trade-off between Africa and China right now.
Yeah.
And my African friends are so culturally different from my Black American friends. Like they are like polar opposites in so many ways. And so it's weird to call like Americans African anything. Because they're like the least African people that I know.
Well, it's
weird.
I'm gonna stick to the ethno thing because on some level it just feels weird to, like there used to be this. Okay, I'll say that, then we'll get a Spinoza again.
Yeah, like my mother is from England.
Right.
I grew up in the U.S. My mom called me a Yankee Doodle. You're a Yankee Doodle just like the rest of them.
Right.
And
wow, with that kind of Scottish accent.
Oh, never say Scottish to a person from Northern England, man. They'll get mad, even though they totally sound Scottish. They'll be like, no, we hate the Scottish, and the Scottish hate us.
No.
But yeah, my granddad was a Geordie, and the first time I I spoke to him on the telephone. The first thing I said to my mother was, "Granddad sounds Scottish." She was like, "No, he doesn't. Don't you ever say that again."
Wow. Okay. Ouch.
Yeah.
With the corporal stuff?
What's that?
With the corporal stuff, corporal punishment?
Was there corporeal punishment? Oh, yeah, we got spanked a lot at home.
Ouch. Okay, fair enough.
So.
Oh, man. So, back to Spinoza. The boring academic stuff. So,
what do we call people? We call them people, but yes, Spinoza.
Right. He came in with theological political treatise. Essentially, he was arguing for the separation of the church and the state on some level in the theological political treatise. But that book, people did not like that book, so he published Ethics posthumously, like Miyamoto Musashi with the Book of Five Rings, which Musashi wrote and published posthumously, I think. But ethics is important on some level because Wittgenstein, since your wife knows some hoity-toity professor guys,
yes,
drop Wittgenstein on them. They will go
Wittgenstein.
Ludwig Wittgenstein.
Wittgenstein, okay.
So
the hoity-toity professors will just go nuts if you mention his name.
Yeah. There was an old philosophy article that said that professional philosophers, I have no idea what that means. How do you get paid doing philosophy? Maybe they mean
you become a hoity-toity philosopher professor, and you charge people through the nose for your seminars.
Maybe they become a professor. Anyways, they probably mean professors. Anyways, they say that they asked them to rank the greatest modern philosopher, and Wittgenstein is on top. Ludwig Wittgenstein. He does something very similar to what you do now, but he does it less clearly, which is that he says that philosophy on some level can be boiled down to linguistics, argument about linguistics, which is interesting, to say the least. But look, Wittgenstein once said about ethics, he said that if anyone wrote a book about ethics that was actually about ethics, that book will explode and it will destroy all the other books.
If somebody wrote a book about ethics?
Yep. That was actually about ethics.
So it was actually about ethics.
So they don't put ethics in the title, and they put it something else. It's like, here are my thoughts about gardening, for example. I don't know, right? So it's actually about ethics. That book will explode because according to him, ethics is transcendent. So he's onto something there, right? Because this happens on YouTube all the time with YouTube videos, right? You make a YouTube video that's about some really basic thing, like in the martial arts community. Right. Icy Mike is very good at this. Okay. He'll make a video about kicking and punching. Right. Like, here's a kicking and punching combination, but instead of titling it, "A kicking and punching combination that will make you better at fighting," he will title it something that hooks you into the topic. People call it clickbait. Right. But essentially, the topic seems a little unrelated. Right. But at the end of the day, he's teaching you how to kick and punch. Right. But the point he made, Wittgenstein, okay. So that part is about the book about its title ethics, and it's actually about ethics. But the point Wittgenstein was making is that because it's transcendent, it can't be contained. So you're essentially putting the divine or the transcendent into a corporeal form, and the corporeal cannot contain the divine, which is the reason the book would spontaneously disappear. But what Spinoza did was that he used Euclidean axiomatic geometry, which is, I'm just going to say this. Yep, that's what we're here for. There are two perfect books. They are completely resistant to interpretive violence in the Western world. Because if you ever watch the old Batman, the Joker, The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight Rises, okay. So it's with Joker. Mm-hmm. So Joker's holding this lady by the he's starting to throw her out the window. He's holding her by the edge of the ledge, and then Batman says in his Batman voice, "Let her go," right? And then Joker says, "Very poor choice of words," and then he lets her go. Yes. Let's go. So this. Obviously, then Batman jumps to her rescue and does his Batman stuff, right? But this on some level what I call it personally, poetic violence. Someone else might call it something, which is that you can phrase things with a certain kind of intention, but someone else might take the word and interpret it to someone else. Yeah. Right. So on some level, when we have the Bible, we have to deal with hermeneutics, which is that the person said this, but as you said just now, what is the actual intention behind the word? And then you have to do archaeology and then linguistics and all that stuff. But there's two books in the Western world that are immune to poetic and interpretive violence. and one is a math book, so it's not surprising at all. It's called Euclid's Geometry. Plato really likes this book, actually. Yeah, he names his academy after he put at the bottom of his academy, let no one ignorant of geometry enter. So geometry was very important to Plato because Plato was essentially a mathematician. Pretending he's doing philosophy on some level.
This I didn't know. Interesting.
Right. But so there's Euclid's Elements, which apparently was a very important book. It was a math test book.
I'd say probably the most impressive philosophers I've spoken to were the ones who are also mathematicians.
Really?
Because essentially,
right.
Philosophy in its purest form is just logic. Mathematics in its purest form is just logic. I see your thinking.
On some level, philosophy you get away with a lot more. It's like Brett Weinstein and Eric had this discussion. You can get away with a lot less logic in philosophy. It's like if we do MMA, I'm going off on the area that I'm not expert in, but you might be more. If we do MMA, there's more variables, so I can do silly things like Genki Sudo. But if we do boxing, I can feel like immediately the amount of things I can get away with is less.
That's interesting. It's like in math, you actually have to know math to have a math discussion. In philosophy,
you can say anything you want.
You don't necessarily have to be smart to join the conversation.
You can say Plato sucks, and then you'll get someone who trained philosophy. It's like, yes, I agree with you. Diogenes also agree with you. Diogenes
and then the other guy would be like, who's Diogenes?
Right. Then the guy says, Diogenes suck as well. Yes, this is what Zeno thought. Stoicism suck. Epicurus agree with you. It's like, you can do this kind of silly things.
So basically, you can be a total idiot savant in the realm of philosophy.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot less. You can do sweeping generalization, and you can get.
From my observation, there are a lot of idiot savants in the realm of philosophy.
Oh man,
many of whom are professors.
Obviously, Euclid's Element is immune to interpretive violence or whatever because it's a math book. Math is by definition immune to interpretive violence because you can't misinterpret a circle. It's a circle.
Unless you're really good at proofs.
What do you mean?
If you're really good at proofs, and you say 2 + 2 = 5, and if you can prove that, and I've known people who they say they can prove that. They write out complex equations I don't understand. They say, this is proof that 2 + 2 = 5.
You know, I hang out in, Marvin knows this. Recently, I talked to him in Singapore. There's this subreddit called OK Buddy PhD. It's where PhD students gather to bamboozle each other about their own PhD material. So the more confusing the meme is, the more it gets upvoted. So if you put a meme that everybody recognizes, boo, go back to undergraduate. And sometimes they say these things like, 1 is equal to 0. It's like, what? No, that's true. You see, if you do, not 1 is equal to 0. You can divide by 0, but in certain mathematical formal systems, you can divide by 0. Was it quaternions or is it Riemann's sphere? If there's a BSc in math, go ahead and type comments. I'm actually interested, or I just talk to ChatGPT about it if there's no one comments. But math is much more immune to interpretive violence. In fact, I still say it's completely.
Basically, you've got to be really smart to try to do the fuzzy math thing.
Even 2 + 2 is equal to 5. If you're doing like normal arithmetic, you get actual guys who try to pick apart the proof essentially to say that why the proof doesn't work. But Euclid's Element is what actually Isaac Newton studied as when he was in Cambridge, and Einstein read Euclid's Element as well. So they both really liked that book. It's a little small geometry book. Einstein called it, quote unquote, the sacred little geometry book.
So basically, mathematics is just as close to an immutable truth as we're going to get as far as human documentation of logic.
Yes, but the problem is that it's going to end up talking about things like circles, triangles, and numbers, which has basically no effect on what most people in daily life are trying to conduct their self by, which is, So what Spinoza saw in that book, Euclid's Element, was that how clean the proof was, because it is absolutely clean. No arguments about it. There's a parallel postulate. I'll say this, then maybe we can conclude the podcast soon. There's a parallel postulate, which if you revoke, which means that two parallel lines will never meet. People had a lot of argument about that because they can't prove it or disprove it. And then sometime in like 16th century or 17th century, a guy called Bernhard Riemann, who was a
It doesn't even seem like it should be a question, though, because if they're truly parallel,
right.
If we're defining parallel as parallel, then they shouldn't.
Right, but the thing is, Euclid had a bunch of axioms, and then he had a bunch of postulates, and then a bunch of common notions. And some really smart guys from the Islamic world during the Middle Ages decided that every axiom can be proved, or no, every postulate can be proved, but they couldn't prove the parallel postulate. And then around 17th century, I think, some guy called Bernhard Riemann, who was a student of Gauss, Carl Friedrich Gauss, created non-Euclidean geometry, which is geometry on curved surfaces. So if you put a parallel line on, this is like basic college stuff, by the way. So this is not me. So like some college people say, boo, go back to undergraduate. And then the other guys, you're just saying this thing, so whatever.
Yeah.
If you have a curved ball and you have a parallel line, they will meet. Mm-hmm. So the parallel postulate does not hold on a curved surface. So then you have Riemannian geometry. Or non-Euclidean geometry, or curved geometry, essentially. But the point is that Spinoza read Euclid's Elements. He saw how clean the proof was, because Euclid states all the assumptions. And every time he makes a proof, he will quote the assumption that he gave you already. So Spinoza took the structure and used it to elucidate a kind of theology, if you will, a natural theology about the divine. And he'll write axioms and then postulates and then common notions, and then he'll prove like one theorem at a time about the nature of the divine. That's what the whole of ethics is about, actually.
So basically, it's like almost like a mathematical proof of ethics.
Yep.
Okay.
And he connected ethics to the divine and also to natural sciences, which is
we could have just said that from the beginning.
Well, but we had to go on a lot of tangent and about other interesting topics. So he combines the theological part and the natural science part into a rigorous mathematical deductive framework. So that in words of Wittgenstein, the book would not explode because he has contained it with a rigorous deductive framework that he borrowed from Euclid's Elements.
Yeah. It's funny how philosophy works. It's like we have to tell the whole story. Like, we can't just take a piece of it out of context. Like, essentially, to understand Spinoza, we've got to understand the guys who came before.
Right.
What they said, where they may have been wrong, where they may have been right.
On some level, it's just because we go on too much tangents. It's mildly interesting that way. But on some level, I have to say that, like, there's a guy called Gilles Deleuze. He's a part of the postmodern group. He said that, I told you this anyway. So,
or essentially, in order to understand Spinoza, we have to contrast him with the others, essentially.
I'll get a contrast.
Because if I just say, Spinoza was a guy who essentially tried to make a mathematical type of proof of ethics.
Right.
That doesn't sound like much. It's like, doesn't everybody do that? But if I start out saying, the other guys did something totally different, and then this guy does this radically divergent thing.
Right.
Suddenly it stands out through contrast.
So there's this postmodern guy called Deleuze. Actually, it's almost contemporary in that respect. He studied Spinoza, and he said that, I told you this about Hegel. Hegel said that when it comes to philosophy, you either agree with everything Spinoza says, or you're not doing philosophy at all. Which is what Hegel says. So take it or leave it.
Wow.
Right? Hegel said that. So, but Hegel, according to Schopenhauer, is a charlatan. Which, if you read the Phenomenology,
if you don't believe everything this guy says, you're not part of the program, man.
But Phenomenology of Spirit, Hegel's 1,000 page of just never mind. I read it, the Cambridge translation. It's like, never mind. But Deleuze, a postmodern guy, he said this, which is actually the same thing I told my girlfriend at the time. But now I can say I didn't say this. I can say Deleuze said this. Deleuze said that when it comes to philosophy, Spinoza is equivalent to the Lord in the Gospels.
Okay.
So he is that guy.
He's like the cornerstone of modern philosophy.
He's a cornerstone of.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I won't even say modern philosophy. When he came on, everything after Descartes, basically, you compare and contrast with Spinoza. Even Kant, on some level, you're basically digging through Kant's notes. Like, did Kant actually read Spinoza? Does he agree with Spinoza on this? Does he disagree with Spinoza on this?
Is there anything you disagree with that Spinoza said? No, so you're completely on board.
You can't. No. Not even.
So you're part of the program.
Do you disagree with anything the Lord said in the gospel?
Do I disagree with Jesus? No.
No.
I've heard this question posed to a Jewish guy. I don't think he was a rabbi, but he's like some prolific Jewish thinker, writer type of guy. And he was asked about Jesus, and his response was, I disagree with a number of things that Jesus said.
Right.
Like what? And his response was that part where he says to abandon your mother and father and your brothers and sisters and follow me, or something like that.
Is that? Okay, go on.
Essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, Jesus said, if any man loves anything, including his own family, his brothers or his sisters, more than the Lord, then he has no part with me. Essentially, if you're not willing to, if God isn't your ultimate priority, then you're not with the program, is what he's saying. He's not saying disown your own family.
It's one of those things.
It's a different thing.
It's one of those things, in Zen Buddhism, apparently Bodhidharma meditated in a cave, and he was concentrating on meditating, and this monk heard of him, came to seek his teaching, right? And Bodhisattva said, no, I won't teach you. But the monk said, please teach me. And Bodhidharma said, look, if the snow turns red, then I'll teach you, which is like never. So the monk, in the historical legend, which is on some level probably apocryphal, cut off his own arm and then drenched his arm, which is like, is that even physically? I don't know. I don't want to comment on it. Never mind. He drenched a field with snow. It was snowing. He drenched a field with his own blood. And then Bodhidharma was like, wow, okay, fine then. But on some level, it's like, these legends have a kind of symbolic dimension that you have to track carefully and not to take literally, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, kind of the point of the story is he's willing to give an arm and a leg literally for the knowledge,
except that you have
the teaching.
Except that
he's willing to make a great sacrifice.
Right. Except that you have to interpret symbolically. Whereas if you actually do anything, you even think about the literal thing, which is like, okay, boy, clearly you need some psychotherapeutic help.
It's similar to, there's a story often ascribed to Socrates and sometimes other great thinkers. Of
the funny thing is, I actually didn't hear that story from Socrates. I heard it from you. The water one.
Yeah, it comes to him and it's like, Socrates, teach me to be wise. And Socrates takes him out to the ocean and dunks him under the water until he fights for breath.
Right.
And then the guy's like, why did you try to drown me? And he's like, as soon as you want this knowledge as much as you wanted that air, seek me again.
Oh, boy.
And it's, again, we don't know if there's any historicity to that. And it's ascribed to a bunch of different famous thinkers.
Right.
But the principle is still kind of the same thing. We can be given everything, right? We can be given amazing knowledge and opportunities and all kinds of things, but unless we paid for them, unless we sacrificed for them, unless we gave up something for them, unless we worked for them, we don't really appreciate them.
Right, but to close off this thing, which is part of the thing where I say there seems to, you obviously call it a program, which I'm quote unquote on board with, but on some level, I've been doing this for a while as a quote unquote amateur. I'm not getting paid, but there's this guy in philosophy. I think most people know about him. I'm going to call him by Freddie N. Okay,
not his real name.
Freddie N. People who knows philosophy should know who I'm talking about. A student of Schopenhauer.
Okay, so Freddie, the student of Schopenhauer. Go on.
Freddie N. I have a Christian friend who, Zach Barclay, he says that he hates talking to people who read this philosophy. So,
So what's the program we're talking about?
You know what? You can ask your wife about this. She probably knows. I'm calling Freddie N. But if you ask your wife, she talks to some hoity-toity professor. They will know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
Guy went completely. Okay, guy by the end of his life was invalid.
Okay.
But he was a professor of philology. So in the old days, so what is called linguistics nowadays, or classical studies.
Philology, the love of words.
Right. He was a great fan of Goethe, so he wanted his philosophy to be about how to deconstruct Goethe. Not deconstruct, about how to so that the person who reads philosophy might get some knowledge on how to be the quote unquote next Goethe, quote unquote.
Okay.
But one of the things I never figured out with his philosophy is that Goethe himself was a great admirer of Spinoza, and of course Freddie N read about Spinoza and said, "Wow, Spinoza is great, yeah." And then towards the end of his productive life, because he became an invalid towards the end of his life, you can show your wife the video. She will know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
He started attacking everybody except maybe Goethe, but he started attacking Spinoza as well. And it's like, bruh, what are you doing? I don't get it. And then, of course, he became an invalid because
which begs the question: how do philosophers call each other out?
Right, but then
like fighters do it by essentially saying, "I could beat you in a fight."
Right.
How do philosophers do that thing?
They just crap talk each other. But Spinoza doesn't even
like,
do
your
that.
philosophy sucks.
Yeah, they just do that thing all the time, actually. But so on some level, I'm reading about. Look, so I'm in university. I was like, this Freddie N read Spinoza. This shouldn't have happened to him. And then I went to read. I searched out a paper. Apparently, someone went through his library and found out that Freddie N. I'm not going to say his actual name, but anyone who knows enough should know.
Okay, sure.
Or if not, they can use Google.
So they went to the library, and what did they find?
He found that the person who did a scholarship and wrote the paper found that Freddie N did not read primary literature of Spinoza. Rather, he bases his attacks of secondary scholarship of Spinoza. So it's like someone not watching your video and watching the video title is like commenting, it's like, this video sucks.
Which happens a lot.
Right. But so he became an invalid. And then Deleuze, the guy, same guy, the postmodern guy who said that nice thing about Spinoza, was doing his own stuff, and he was trying to fuse Spinoza with Freddie N, but he sided with Freddie N on that argument as well. Yeah, it's very, we should cover it soon. And Deleuze did not have a good ending. So so just stay on the program. Read ethics. Do what Hegel said, even though Hegel is what Schopenhauer calls a charlatan, and the phenomenology of spirit is this incredibly boring 1,000-page book. That is, strangely enough, quite good advice. So
it's funny because, like, even though I'm not Hegel's biggest fan, it's still worth reading and studying, I would say, because of the contrast we were talking about before.
The problem is it's a 1,000-page book, so it's like
it's long.
You have to train, like, do you have a fighter equivalent of something like this kind of a before and after thing?
Before and after?
Like this kind of training that
like before and after training?
No, like this kind of specific training that there's before you, the peak of the hill, if you will.
The peak of the heel.
So the top of the mountain, so the if training intensity is like a mountain, is there something that's equivalent to the top of the mountain in terms of physical culture? Is it like doing deadlifts at 2.5 body weight, that kind of thing?
Okay, so are you asking like what's like a very difficult aspect of physical culture?
If you're reading a book, and you can read 1,000-page book, you're golden. Like no one can stop you. So like physical culture, is that a kind of equivalent? Like if you can do X.
Okay. So basically, if you can read some big heavy text by like Hegel or something like that,
1,000 pages,
and just make it through 1,000 pages of that and understand it.
Don't even have to. You just
don't even have to understand it. Just make it through and maybe be able to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand.
Is there like a physical culture equivalent? Like then, you can do X, no one can.
Okay. So basically, like if you can squat twice your body weight and deadlift 2.5 times your body weight and do 20 pull-ups and run a mile.
Do you have to run a mile?
Under 10 minutes, then you're probably in pretty decent shape.
Are you saying that, or is that an actual?
I'm just throwing out some numbers here.
Okay.
I mean, if you can do those things, you're obviously in pretty decent physical shape.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So that might be a good place to call it then.
Yeah. So. Okay.
By the way, the School of Life has a good short video on Spinoza. So just search up the School of Life. Spinoza. The only part of the problem with that video is that he gets everything right, except that he says that he tries to say that Spinoza got some things wrong, which he did get right.
Are you trying to start a beef between me and the School of Life guy? No. I don't even know him. I haven't even seen his videos.
No,
let's start a beef. School of Life guy, your philosophy sucks.
No.
I don't even know you. I haven't even read your thumbnails.
Dr. Peterson some people used to call Dr. Peterson the School of Life, but for people who are not that good.
Oh, interesting.
So I used to watch a lot of the School of Life videos, and then Dr. Peterson came along. Then I started watching more.
This is something I've been wondering about. Why Jordan Peterson gets so much hate on the internet? Now, it's probably because he also gets so much love on the internet. And when people are popular, there's a pushback also, like, that guy shouldn't be as popular. And but some of the comments, some of the vitriol that gets spewed at him is just weird, man. It's weird. Anyway, it's just when you get popular, you get enemies.
I don't know. On some level, I don't know. Like, okay, I was thinking this a few days ago. Actually, on some level, it might be good to close with this.
Yeah.
Dr. Peterson had a quote-unquote debate with Sam Harris. The first two was chaired by Brett Weinstein. Then the next two, the last one, was chaired by Douglas Murray. And Douglas said this thing which is that in the old legacy media thing, you can say something wrong on television, and then your reputation, quote-unquote, just gets tarnished, and then people don't associate with you anymore. But there's this quote-unquote IDW guys, which is like Sam Harris, Eric Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, Dr. Peterson, yada, 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 who have an online presence so a part of the quote-unquote new media. So when they get cancelled by the legacy media, they still have a low following on the new media, YouTube thing. But on some level, the YouTube thing is a lot like the legacy media, because now, like with Dr. Peterson and Sam Harris, they're basically dealing with, as Eric Weinstein recently said about, and Joe Rogan as well, they're getting cancelled on new media as well. So it's like, on some level, it's just, the same.
Yeah.
It's essentially the same thing. So.
Yeah.
But the School of Life video on Spinoza is a good video. But just the ending part where the School of Life guy says that Spinoza did not know how to make his philosophy more popular, it's like just meh. I don't agree with that. But okay, yeah, that's all.
Cool. Well, Fang, thanks for the chat, man.
All right.
Good talking. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and philosophize.
Train.
Or train. Or both.